This is what happened when you're educated by elite academia. Remember when Ro Khanna came on my show, a guy who got a doctorate degree, some shit like that, and he explained like, Nick, you don't think America fights war for the goodness of their heart and they don't actually care? And I'm like, no, you got to be out of your mind to believe this. So elite academia is not education, it is brainwashing. And whatever title you got, if you got a master's degree in a political science of some degree, in a social science, if you don't have a degree in STEM, that essentially just represents how brainwashed you are, how much you memorized their propaganda. God forbid you have a bachelor's degree in history. Oh my God. If you have a bachelor's degree in history, you're cooked. You might as well fry it. You might as well light that degree on fire. Because these people are part of the elite academic class that is approved of, while we're the ignorant riffraff who need to read a book. You know how delusional you have to be as the United States, who has zero moral credibility on the world stage. I think the United States ruling class highly underestimated how much the success of American propaganda and the illusion of them having moral superiority helped them achieve their international and global aims. Now they lost all moral credibility, not only just because of recent events, but accumulation of events. The war on terror being a complete failure, replacing the Taliban with the Taliban. Once again, the global majority is facing the brunt of U.S. sanctions. The United States is waging economic war against the global majority, is bombing fishermen off the coast of Venezuela, funding and arming a genocide in Gaza. They were bombing Somalia. Do you guys know Donald Trump is bombing Somalia just like Joe Biden? I'm like one of the only YouTube channels that ever covered the United States bombing of Somalia under Joe Biden. Donald Trump has continued that. Dropped over 100 bombs on Somalia, supporting the war in Ukraine. But then the United States have the nerve, after all the crimes that they're committing right now, to turn around and say, hey, China, we're worried about your military activity. So this shit may work on dumb Americans, fam. It is working less and less. But the global majority that is starting to side with China, they see how ridiculous this is. This is not working anymore. This is why the EU is becoming irrelevant. This is why the world is turning toward China. And I showed it. I seen this clip earlier. I had to show this. I was looking for just a student show this craziness. This is Kaja Kallas. We covered her multiple times on RBN. She is the EU's top chief diplomat. Despite being the top diplomat of Europe, she is probably one of the least diplomatic people you will ever see in politics. And you can tell the future of the EU, or the future of any bloc, to be honest, based on who they put in leadership. And when you see who the EU, when you see who NATO is leaning on, when you see how cooked Europe is in the leadership they are choosing, for example, Germany decided to select, not elect, select a BlackRock prime minister, a prime minister in Germany that came directly from BlackRock. The same way Emmanuel Macron came directly from the banks. Meloni in Italy come from finance. Like, you have all these people who are capitalists who cut the middleman off and decided to hijack the governments of Europe directly. So what these warmongers did is put someone who has insane anti-Russia derangement as the top diplomat of the EU. So yeah, this is another roast of Kaja Kallas. Because out of all the politicians in the world, she's easily my favorite. Like, she is, I have no picked her. She is the perfect representation of the moral intellectual rot of the West. So I stopped spoiling it. Here is Kaja Kallas explaining why you should hate China, because she gives interview once again, despite being a diplomat, the top diplomat of Europe, she goes around everywhere to explain why people should hate and why we should have war against Russia and China. And here's just another talking point she's trying out right now.
It's not in their interest that this war stops, because then America's attention will turn to China, and it's not in their interest. It is interesting, why he said that. Later on, I spoke to some think tankers from Japan whose assessment was that actually the war in Ukraine is not very popular in China. So they need to also explain this to the people, why they are the key enablers of this war. So to make this softer and say, see, this is in our interest.
This is one of the top thinkers in Europe, my friends. She says that China is doing everything they can to prevent peace in Ukraine and is the main driver of the war in Ukraine, despite Europe and the United States literally sending weapons, literally infiltrating and provoking this war in the first place. So she spread this unhinged conspiracy theory that China wants this war to continue because she accidentally says the quiet part out loud. This person has as many brain cells as Donald Trump. So Donald Trump is hated by the establishment because he often say the quiet part out loud. I will never understand why the establishment likes her. Because she just explained and said the quiet part out loud that once the West is done in Ukraine, they plan to go to war with China. Listen to it again. You're not supposed to say this, Kaja.
It's not in their interest that this war stops, because then America's attention will turn to China.
What? For one, as the top EU diplomat, how do you know that? What conversations have you been in? Isn't that very revealing? And the dumbest of the dumb politicians would say the quiet part out loud. They would say Ukraine is about to fight and struggle for democracy, but it's all about keeping Russia and China in check, checking their geopolitical power. Ukraine is the new imperialist poison they tried to inject. The same way Israel is the imperialist poison of the Middle East, they try to use Taiwan as the imperialist poison against China. They're using Ukraine as the imperialist poison against Russia. And she says the quiet part out loud, which I think is fantastic. So I'll play this one more time so you guys see. This is the top EU diplomat.
Because then America's attention will turn to China, and it's not in their interest. It is interesting, why he said that.
Actually, I don't need to play the rest of that, but you guys see, they got someone who is a good-looking blonde. You guys see how intelligence is not necessary for this role? Being a diplomat, being a Western politician. In China, they value your intelligence. We covered China foreign policy advisors and diplomats who are able to expertly explain the history of the Ukraine conflict. Oh yeah, so I think you told me this before. She's a traitor. We got to see her job is to be cute. Her job is to be cute, to be a sexy representative of the West, but to have zero brains. Because it's not the only time where she said the quiet part out loud. Here's another here's a recent event where she exposes the West's intention of waging war against Russia in order to split Russia into smaller nations. Now, this has been a dream, and Zoya would tell you that. This has been a dream of the West to conquer, divide Russia, because they view them as they have historically viewed the entity as Russia as the biggest threat to the West. So their dream is to split them up into smaller countries. And this is her saying the quiet part out loud here.
Russia's defeat is not a bad thing, because then there could be really a change in the society, and there are many different nations right now part of Russia as well. I think if you would have more like small nations, it's not a bad thing if the big power is actually much.
It's not a bad thing. You guys see how she's very openly describing the goal of the West to take this big boogeyman, the Russian boogeyman, and split them into small independent countries. It's not about democracy in Ukraine. If you believe that, you're a child. Which is essentially every single NATO leftist. There's a very fun popularity contest. You guys are having fun time in New York. It's a very entertaining spectacle of Zoran Mamdani and the progressive left. But you guys realize you would never catch me in a million years voting for another progressive Democrat, because they are all NATO leftists. They all support waging endless war against Russia. AOC, Bernie Sanders, Zoran Mamdani avoided this issue like a plague, but I promise you he's supportive of this. The same way his wife is in support of the head choppers in Syria. The same way Cori Bush, people are like, oh my God, Cori Bush is running again. She's running against the AIPAC guy. Cori Bush voted to send billions of dollars to Nazis in Ukraine as our brothers and sisters in St. Louis are struggling. Never again to Cori Bush. You guys are out of your mind. And I'm going to get into this more later. I guess I'm spoiling it. But here is the top EU diplomat. I know you guys was insulting her looks in the comments. I was being very nice. Your guys' comments was cracking me up. She isn't even mid. I was being nice. It's not a good look for me to be a man just insulting these women's look. I don't have to do this. The job is that she was selected because she was supposed to be this cute face of the EU. You guys are fucking cracking me up. Yeah, Zoran was talking shit about Venezuela. You guys, I did say, no, you guys see that. You guys cracking me up. I need to read more of the comments, man. But the whole idea, while it was portraying, and this is how they view her, they view her as, and this is why she climbed politics, as a good-looking representative. Because she's not hired for brains. Because I don't know if you guys remember this gold clip. This clip right here should fucking ruin her career. In any rational society, which Europe is not, Europe has completely descended into fascism. This clip here, where Kaja Kallas explains how she was surprised that Xi Jinping and Putin was celebrating the victory over Imperial Japan and Nazi Germany, because she didn't know that Russia and China defeated the Nazis and defeated Japan. Look, this clip is gold, and it sums up the intelligence of our ruling class in a nutshell. Because people like Trump said that World War II was our victory. This is what the ruling class really believes.
You know, that Russia was addressing China like, you and like Russia and China, we fought the Second World War. We won the Second World War.
So she's explaining, because this was after the victory parade that Xi Jinping and Putin had over the Nazis in the West. So she like, they don't pretend that they won this war. What are they talking about? Look at this.
Like, you and like Russia and China, we fought the Second World War. We won the Second World War. We won the Nazism. And I was like, okay, that is something new. But then you can see, first you can, if you know history, then it raises a lot of question marks in your head. But I can tell you
Bruh.
nowadays people don't really read and remember history that much, which is that, you can see that they buy these narratives.
Can you imagine being that smug and that classist while being that wrong at the same time? We explain, I'll show you guys receipt after receipt. 70% of the deaths that Japan suffered in World War II came from the Chinese front. China was fighting Japan 10 years before the United States got involved. 80% of the deaths of the Nazi army came from the Red Army. Russia directly weakened the Nazi army, which allowed Europe to even stand a chance of survival. If it wasn't for the USSR, if it wasn't for the Soviet Union, everyone in Europe will be speaking German right now. Meanwhile, Big Brain, the top diplomat of the EU, says that people are just ignorant and we don't read because they believe the historical fact. You guys see how the ruling class will quickly rewrite history? And Trump is already doing it. If we don't have citizen journalists correcting their bullshit, if we don't have revolutionary scientists in the lab cooking, dismantling their propaganda, this clip should be disqualified.
That Russia was addressing China like, you and like Russia and China, we fought the Second World War. We won the Second World War. We won the Nazism. And I was like, okay, that is something new. But then you can see, first you can, if you know history, then, it raises a lot of question marks in your head. But, I can tell you nowadays people don't really read and remember history that much, which is that, you can see that they buy these narratives.
This is what happened when you're educated by elite academia. Remember when Ro Khanna came on my show, a guy who got a doctorate degree, some shit like that, and he explained like, Nick, you don't think America fights war for the goodness of their heart and they don't actually care? And I'm like, no, you got to be out of your mind to believe this. So elite academia is not education, it is brainwashing. And whatever title you got, if you got a master's degree in political science of some degree, in a social science, if you don't have a degree in STEM, that essentially just represents how brainwashed you are, how much you memorized their propaganda. God forbid you have a bachelor's degree in history. Oh my God. If you have a bachelor's degree in history, you're cooked. You might as well fry it. You might as well light that degree on fire. Because these people are part of the elite academic class that is approved of, while we're the ignorant riffraff who need to read a book. Yeah, well, I don't know what Ro Khanna. I think he got like a doctorate in law or some shit like that. I don't know, master's in law. But I told you, I revoked Ro Khanna's shit. Like, if you guys see my interview with him, I already propped it up a lot. I revoked Ro Khanna's doctorate degree. The same way I revoked Dr. Cornel West's over his fucking insane takes over Alexei Navalny and condemning Palestinian resistance like he did on October 7th. So you gotta know the position of RBN. My position is those degrees are worthless. Not only are they worthless, they actually counterproductive and can lead you down a path of anti-intellectualism. This is why they don't invite me. This is why they don't want to debate me, man. This is why you will never see me on Piers Morgan. You will never see me on these debate shows. You will never see a Nick Jubilee. Because I will cook them the same way I cook Robbie from the Hill, the same way I cook Destiny, the same way I cook Ro Khanna. The more you read, the more you know empire propaganda, the bigger target you are for me. Because I already know what you're going to say before you say it. Kaja Kallis's shocking lack of historical literacy. A major gaffe about Russia and China in World War II belies the Europeans' cartoonish mindset about the world's major powers. She is the top diplomat, fam. We're not fucking just picking on some random mayor who had nothing to do with foreign policy. This is the top EU diplomat that doesn't even know basic World War II history. How is this not a massive scandal? This is not a minor gaffe. It is a shocking lack of historical literacy. The Soviet Union suffered over 20 million casualties in the Great Patriotic War, a sacrifice that, in alliance with the United States and Britain, fundamentally broke the back of the Nazi war machine. If it wasn't for the USSR killing 80% of Nazi soldiers, Europe will be speaking German, like I said. China death toll at 20 million. Oh, sorry, I missed my part. Here it is. China, for its part, endured immense suffering in a brutal conflict with Japan that was a crucial, though often overlooked in the West. Look, this is actually a very important sentence, because whenever you mention that Jewish people wasn't the biggest victims of World War II, they will call you anti-Semite. They will call you anti-Semite for simply mentioning that other people suffered in World War II. You guys realize that Imperial Japan committed a whole ass Holocaust against the Chinese people that no one talks about. You're not allowed to humanize the Chinese people. That's why Kalakaua is like, what are you talking about? China had nothing to do with World War II. You guys see how it's been completely erased from the memory of the ruling class? So they accuse us of being anti-Semitic, and they accuse people of Holocaust denialism. That's a big thing in the West. You're a Holocaust denier. Meanwhile, top diplomats in the West engage in Japanese Holocaust denialism all the time. In fact, since we talked about them earlier, I brought this up earlier this week. Sane Takaichi, Shinzo Abe, in the ruling class in Japan. I know I mentioned this in my last stream, so I don't want to beat a dead horse on this. You guys realize one of the number one cultural wars in Japan that they are on the side of is they believe that they shouldn't apologize. Shinzo Abe's entire thing, Sane Takaichi, is called a Nazi because she says that she engaged in Hitler apologia. She says that she apologizes for the crimes of Imperial Japan. The ruling party in Japan, the right wing in Japan, the whole thing is about saying that their war crimes against China is often overblown. And if it's not overblown, they deserved it.